One of our values at Heart Centered Leaders is purpose. And in order to understand your purpose or discover your purpose, which is about what you're going to do now and moving forwards, you need to understand, or it's certainly helpful to understand, your origin story, as Simon Sinek puts it. So I want to share my origin story with you today. My childhood was a paradox. I spent a lot of time growing up in Germany, part of an armed forces family. My dad was in the RAF, so we had this kind of typical forces nomadic childhood. And the beautiful aspect of that time was that we lived in communities of other RAF families, and it was like we were kind of all in it together. There was a huge amount of connection. I fondly remember the things that we did, which were generally quite modest experiences, but generally they were about connection, coming together, street parties, going to different places in Germany, but going as groups. And it was a very sheltered upbringing. I didn't really get exposed to drink, drugs, sex, and that was lovely because it helped me and I guess the people I was surrounded with maintain our innocence as children. But the paradox is that while it was very sheltered and felt very safe, every morning we had to go out to our cars with this little mirror and check underneath that there weren't any bombs underneath the vehicles. So there was this undercurrent of danger, especially living near to the RAF base, wherever we lived, being surrounded by fighter jets and bombs and guns and a very, very strange paradox between feeling really safe and having this clear and present danger around us all the time. And my life changed forever in May 1994, because while I had this very, very rosy childhood up until that point, when my mum and dad sat me and my sisters down and essentially dropped a bomb on us that they were going to be separating, it could not have come as a bigger shock, because they did an incredible job at not letting us see that there had ever been a problem. I don't recall my parents arguing, but all of a sudden things changed. And the really difficult thing that happened in that moment was my mum and dad asked me and my sisters to choose who we wanted to live with, which was an incredibly tough decision. For me, my sisters immediately chose to live with my mum, and I understand why, because my dad, nature of his job, he was away, not present for months and months at a time. The only way we could communicate was through these what we call blueies, these blue letters, blue envelopes that you would send off and then get a response back, because there was no internet. You couldn't phone because Dad was often in very, very remote and dangerous locations that you just, you couldn't talk on the phone. So he wasn't present for a lot of our childhood. So when it came to making that decision, I chose to live with Dad purely out of guilt, because my sisters had chosen to live with my mum. And I carried that guilt for a very, very long time, right up until probably about 18 months ago, when I did a bit of breath work and I was able to release that guilt. And after having such a wonderful childhood up until that pivotal moment, the subsequent few years in particular were some of the hardest of my life. We moved to Scotland, somewhere we'd never even visited, moved to a small town called Elgin, which I was unaware was a quite a hostile environment because of the culture. Quite a small-minded attitude was present there. Me, as this little English kid coming in, I stood out for all the wrong reasons. I got bullied for the first time ever, and nearly ran away from home several times, and went from having this amazing experience of connection to feeling completely disconnected in my family, disconnected in my community, and it was awful at times, and came through it. My resilience kicked in, and I was able to find a way to fit in, because that's part of the skill that I'd learned through all the times that we'd moved around. But through that experience, I guess some limiting beliefs grew in me, that I didn't want to be a parent, and I didn't think I could be a parent, because I didn't want to be responsible for bringing children into the world and giving them an experience like I had. I didn't believe that I could get married and have children, and that what I experienced not be the inevitable outcome. So part of my journey has been, moving from actively avoiding responsibility, being irresponsible, taking drugs and drinking a lot in my late teens and very, very early 20s, partying, enjoying life, but taking it to an extreme, overcoming that, to then taking responsibility. And I've got my wife to thank for that, because she helped me overcome my own limiting beliefs around being a parent, being a spouse and a leader, and I will forever be grateful to her for that. And my own transformational journey really began in 2016, when I was working from home. At the time, I'd lost a couple of jobs through redundancy, and I was starting to ask myself some deeper questions, because I was about to become a dad for the first time. And up until that point, my life had been about trying to live for the day and enjoy the moment. And whenever I earned any money, I would spend it on experiences. And when I started to ask myself some deeper, more powerful questions, like, what do I really want? What kind of example do I want to set to my children? What makes me truly happy? What do I value? I also read a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Whilst me and Jenny my wife, were out, my now wife, were out on holiday in Spain. And through reading that book, I gained this incredible thirst for knowledge that I'd lacked up until that point. And through that self-inquiry, I had this really powerful insight that wherever I do moving forwards, I have to be helping people for a living. My greatest source of fulfillment and joy is through helping others. And I didn't know what that would mean. I didn't know how that would manifest. But I started to get some clarity on that a couple months later, when I went for lunch in Edinburgh with the co-founder of a company called Mindful Talent, an amazing guy called Alistair Gray, who I used to be his client when I worked in internal recruitment in oil and gas. He was director and shareholder of a recruitment company in Edinburgh. And unbeknownst to me, when we met up in, I think it was September 2016, he'd been on this incredible transformational journey himself. He was about a year ahead of me in my own journey, and he downloaded this whole experience of the previous 12 to 18 months on me in that lunch. And it was amazing to witness him as this amplified version of himself. It was like he'd become bigger in terms of his energy and what I was experiencing of him, because I'd always admired his energy, his passion, his drive, his ability to deliver. And yeah, what I was experiencing of him was just this amplified version of the guy that I knew, and he was the first person to introduce coaching to me. And because up until that point, coaching to me was the thing you do in sport. I had no idea that coaching was this vehicle for incredible transformational change. And through that lunch, I came to learn that coaching could be the vehicle for me to deliver or act on this desire and help me to fulfill this deep desire I had that was emerging for me to help other human beings. And it wasn't until the end of 2017, when I finally felt ready to take the leap and decided to go and train with Mindful Talent, because at that point, our eldest daughter and first daughter, Emily, had turned 1. I felt a bit more settled as a parent and ready to invest in myself and do something different. And at that point as well, I was on the verge of losing my 5th job in a row, and had come to the decision that I needed to go and work for myself. Working for somebody else as an employee just wasn't working for me, because I felt like I was just doing the next thing all the time. And when I went and trained with Mindful Talent, I had to wait till April 2018 to enroll. I went into the very first call of that program still with a degree of skepticism. I'd never really experienced coaching in the way that I know it now. I thought I was really open-minded because all of my experiences growing up, but discovered that I still had a really, really long way to go in terms of really opening myself up to what's possible. And I remember the very first call that we had on the course, and the word transformation was used a lot. And my left brain, the little critical voice was saying bullshit. I didn't believe in that word in this context, and didn't believe that that was possible for me at that point. And when we came to the end of the course, I acknowledged to Ali and Michelle, who are the co-founders of Mindful Talent, that they were absolutely right. It was absolutely the most incredible, powerful, world-class transformational learning experience of my entire life. What I've gained from that is this immense set of skills. I've been able to amplify the things that I've always done, that I've always been good at, my ability to listen well, my curiosity and interest in other people, my ability to hold the space and actually amplify those listening abilities, my ability to ask powerful questions, because as an experienced recruiter and professional interviewer, I thought I was really good at asking questions and asking powerful questions, but I've been able to take that to a whole new level. And what I've discovered since then is that I have this really incredible, unique ability to create such a safe space that people often tell me things that they've never told anybody else before. And often the very, very first time I meet them, which is amazing. And I'm so grateful and feel privileged that people are able to put so much trust and faith in me that they can share so deeply and profoundly with me, and knowing how beneficial that is to help people to acknowledge the things that they want and the things that hold them back, so that they can move forward and progress much more quickly. That's amazing. And the one thing I'm probably most grateful for in having come through that learning experience and everything else that's happened since is this immense sense of purpose that's emerged from within me. And the energy that's coming through that place, I now appreciate why I experienced Alistair in the way that I did in that lunch that we shared, because he discovered the sense of purpose within himself. And when you discover that sense of purpose, there's a knowing that emerges, a certainty and an incredible energy that I believe everyone deserves to access, because it's all within us. But there's a journey to go on in order to reach that point. And understanding your story, understanding where you come from, understanding your unique gifts, all feeds into that amazing discovery of what it is that you were meant to do and what you're meant to do going forwards. And for us now, with Heart-Centered Leaders, our purpose is centered around creating better leaders, because we know that by doing that, we'll be able to create the kind of positive ripple effect that will make the world a happier and better place for all. And that's what drives us. And yeah, that's why we love to do what we do, to be of service. And I know now, this is the thing I was meant to do. After years and years and years of doing the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, I'm now doing the thing. And that is amazing. That is magic. So yeah, that's my story. I hope that it inspires you in some way to help you to discover aspects of yourself, your own story, so you can connect with your own purpose. And that helps you to drive forward, create a positive ripple effect in your world, so we can all create a happier and better world for us all. Thank you for listening.